You for watching us right from Richmond Media. This afternoon, we bring you another episode of From the Beginning. One might ask, what is from the beginning? From the beginning is from the beginning. Where life started from, how far life has been, the obstacles that have come along life as you age, as you grow, as you improve, as you progress, and how you have been able to endure. This program is an educative program, bringing it to you, especially now our youth. And part of it, we think whatever your hand touches just brings money straight away. But we have to understand that life is a process. Sometimes, if you are being blessed to have it straight away, that is good. But if it hasn't happened that way, or how far you have been, you also have to know that some people have been through that stage of life. And if they have been able to cross all those barriers that came along, then you will also be able to cross it, no matter how difficult it becomes. We have some mentors, we have some people that have been through, and they are nowadays sharing their life story with us. So this afternoon, just get yourself ready, put yourself together, because today is a family program. We have Mr. Johnson AMPONSAH, the husband, handsome brother of mine, the husband of Sister Linda AMPONSAH, who just finished. discussing the health issues with us. He is also an elder and he loves the work of God. You know, he does this work with his whole heart. And he's someone that I really admire a lot. I know Mr. Johnson, not from here, right back from Ghana, when he was going around to look for the students from the secondary schools of our youth, the youth of our church, which is then classified as NAS and is still NAS. So it's not today that he started working, long before when he was young. So today he'll be able to give us more. As opening, you're welcome to From the Beginning on Richmond Media.
Thank you. Thank you very much, my young sister, beautiful, always beautiful sister, Hanna, Miss Bimah.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, as I said, I don't know you from UK, but God works in a mysterious ways that we have to meet again from Ghana and then meeting here as well. And we've been fellowshipping together. So we know ourselves very well. And I know you are someone who you love the work of God, you love the youth as well. So today, both youth, young and grown-ups, will be able to benefit from your life story. How far? Who is Mr. Johnson AMPONSAH, please?
Very simple. I am the husband of Mrs. Linda AMPONSAH, who just spoke. As you can see, I'm not as fair as she is. I'm a dark person. Okay, so Johnson, I was born into a very humble home in a little village called Duasidan in the Doma district of the Brungahafu region. So I grew up there until I left at the age of about 11 years to another village, well, a little town called Wamfie, where I did attend international school. And then from there, I went to Doma Secondary School, Domas, and then from there to Accra Workers College for my A-levels. And then from there, I did attend the University of Ghana, Legon, where I did complete the year 2000 with my BA. Then migrated to the UK in 2001. Yes, 2001. Having lived here since, basically. So I've been married for many years, over 20 years now, and I've got 2 children. I am also a social worker, as you know. I've been practicing social work for over 15 years now, so I'm very, very experienced in the profession. And I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. So 3 things move me: my family, my church, and my profession. These 3 things do move me, and I'm very passionate about all 3.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. You know what? 2001, some of us were not born. Some of us were, crawling. Some of us were just, we were even in the tummy, as my son says. Mommy, was I in your tummy? Some of us were in the tummy of our mothers. But we thank God. You still look young.
Thank you.
If you have given us all these stories and how many years been in the UK alone tells us that you are growing young, not older. So we thank God for your life. So you made mention of you being a social worker. So who is a social worker?
A social worker does a very simple but very complex as well work. Social workers help to find solutions to people's problems, you know, and that includes helping people to live independent lives, you know, helping them to improve their lives. It also entails, it involves, you know, helping people to protect them, people who are vulnerable, whether they being children or adults, protecting them from harm and abuse. So it's a very, very broad, you know, profession. And as we go on, I will tell you more about the people that we work with. But in very simple terms, a social worker helps whether individuals or groups or families or communities to help improve their lives, resolve their problems, make their lives better, help to protect them from abuse and harm.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Johnson, for enlightening us about who a social worker is. So, in this context, what life experience pushed you to appreciate the work of social worker, or thereby becoming a social worker?
Okay, thank you very much for that beautiful question. And that ties in very, very neatly to your topic from the beginning.
Exactly.
All right.
Thank you.
So what I did study at the University of Ghana, actually, the is the motivation behind my current profession. So at the university, I did study psychology and sociology. Okay, and you know, after graduating as a bachelor from the bachelor as a bachelor of arts holder, I noticed that there are individuals in society who are suffering a lot. There are also groups that are suffering a lot. I then went on to do my A levels and to study literature in English and government. Continuing that, I also realized that there are a lot of you know, discrimination in societies, disadvantages in societies. So that actually, you know, motivated me to want to pursue a career which will at least educate people, to support people. So I had three choices: whether to be a lecturer in the field of psychology or sociology, or to become a counselor, you know, or also the third one was to become a social worker. So if I continue to live in Ghana, I would have probably been a lecturer or a counselor. But when I came to the UK, something else motivated me, that in my churches, you know, I did understand how important it was for people to get more understanding of what our society really is. I realized that studying social work would help me to support people who are disadvantaged and also educate people around me, including family, friends, and the church. So the last thing I want to say in relation to that you know, question is that when I was studying literature, I also came across a book called Native Son. A Native Son, there was this guy, this young person called Bigger Thomas, who was an American, a Black American, who was greatly disadvantaged by the system, the police system, and the socio-economic system of the country at that time. All this came together to influence my thinking in relation to how societies are formed, how societies are influenced, how people in disadvantaged areas in our societies, you know, continue to be disadvantaged and suffer. But at the back of that, how can we support these people? How can we help them to better their environments and their lifestyles? And these all, so there's a lot of complex items in my life that help me to, conclude that social work is a profession that I wanted to pursue.
Thank you so much, Mr. AMPONSAH. It's really great joy to have you and to have your background, to listen to you from where you began from the beginning. Listeners, friends and family, you are watching us right from Richmond Media, and the program is From the Beginning, where life began. So please continue to stay tuned, call your friends, family members, tell them to come and experience from the beginning this afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. So, as a social worker, what constitutes your great joy or sorrow?
Um, Seeing particularly children who are really disadvantaged. And as you will see later, my specialty is in children's social work. You know, and as you know, many people think that, oh, what social workers, particularly children's social workers do, all they do is to remove children from their parents, from their families. But that's not all, and we will explain later. But what gives me the greatest joy is picking up a case, working through that case to the end, and supporting the family to remain in the family, and not to end them with another family. In other words, not to remove them from their families, but to support them and help them to remain in the family and improve their lives. So nothing gives me joy than ending a case and closing that case and knowing that this family has been better off where I'm living than where I started with them. What gives me sorrow is where sadly I've had to make a decision to remove a child from their family. That can really break my heart, and that's broken my heart many, many times. But we have to, it comes to a point where after putting in all the necessary support and giving all the advices, giving all the advice that you can, signposting the family to all sorts of services in the community, and yet the children's lives are not being improved, and therefore you resort to the last but painful conclusion that the best it to be better for the children or the child to live elsewhere than their own family.
So, apart from being sad, when you are taking the children away from their parents, and you are doing so because your work requires you to do that, depending on how the situation is. Are there some bitter experiences that you have had in your work?
A lot, and as you know, I've had done this for over 15 years. Because of confidentiality, I won't be able to give very, very specific examples. But in general terms, I have removed many children from their families. Okay, ranging from sexual abuse to neglect, to physical abuse, to emotional abuse. I'm tempted to give a particular example, but there was this case where the mother, concealed something called concealed pregnancy and concealed child. So this mother hid the child for quite a long time, and I would not mention the number of years, but it was quite a long time without this child knowing or seeing any professional whatsoever, let alone a GP or a midwife. So what absolutely no connection with the outside world. And sadly, I had to remove that child from the family home. A very beautiful child, and I felt that this child could have a very good life with their family, who loved them dearly. But unfortunately, we had to remove this child from the family. So that's one of many examples that I can give.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Nana Ajua Sifa says, I love the in depth knowledge of your guest. Well done, girl, and thanks for bringing such people to us. Thank you, Nana Ajua Sifa, for watching us rise from media, reach more media. Thank you. Mr. Johnson, you know, from Ghana to the UK to social work, as now a social worker, been practiced for about 15 years. When you arrived in the UK, how was the transition like?
It was very difficult because as an immigrant, I had to adapt to the UK environment. One typical area was, how the questions, how am I going to pay my fee? Because as an immigrant, I have no recourse to public funds. I wasn't qualified for bursary. So whilst my mates at the university were being given money to study, I was paying money to study. And my social work career course cost me £18,500.
Wow.
And yes, and very thankful to my wife, because at that time she had to sacrifice her own education and life for me to study first. And I had to pay these fees. So it was a great challenge for me. I had to do all sorts of odd work, odd jobs. It wasn't even work; they were called jobs. So odd jobs, including cleaning. And not forgetting that I was a university graduate when I got to the UK, and I'm not downgrading any jobs, but I hope you can understand that a university graduate is, cleaning is not something that a university graduate wants to do, correct? So that was a very big challenge. I worked in areas like Sainsbury's, before I entered my profession, to the studies, and I had to actually move from London to Bristol, where I did do my MSc in social work at Bristol University. And moving from, I had friends and family in London, but I had to move. And when we got to Bristol, we were complete strangers, thanks to my church over there, who were very benevolent to me and my family at that time. So I would say, cutting it short, entering my course to become a social worker was the biggest challenge for me as an immigrant. And then having two children over here. And in fact, my first child was born in Ghana, but came here when she was 20 months. And when I was studying, sometimes she'd be sitting on my lap. My wife would have to go to work and do some work so we can get money to pay our bills and food on the table. So it was a lot of challenges, but God has been really good. God has been good. At the end, I will have to share with you, if you want to become a social worker, it's not just such a bad job, okay? But God has been good. My church has been very good. My family has been very good, friends and family. And if you want to, if you determine, I am very sure that you will succeed the way you want to succeed, and God being on your side.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. You are really indeed telling us that life began from somewhere. And when you get to a particular point in time, life is not the end.
That's right.
Because coming from Ghana to the UK, understanding that when you are in Ghana and you finish university, everyone expects you to have a high profile job. Or when you go to the UK, though you didn't have such, opportunity, but you continue. Whatever your hand was laid on, you were able to survive in life until the time came, the opportunity came for you, to be what you wanted to be. Thank you for sharing this life experience with us because, you know, the youth out there, sometimes when they get stuck, they don't know what to do. We don't
Mm,
know what to do.
mm,
But your life experience is telling us that continue. My son always uses a word. He said, when it comes, I will share it with you until you get to where you have to. But whatever your hands find doing, either it's cleaning, checkouts, at any point in time, do it because
mm.
that is what will put something on the table and that will be able to support your life.
That's right.
Let us encourage ourselves, youth of today. That is my major concern. Money doesn't just flow, it's a process. When you touch and it's just released, enjoy it. But when the time hasn't come, continue to persevere. That is
Mm,
the word my son is using. Perseverance. Persevere until you get to your destination. Where
that's right.
you are, you think, oh, should I leave university and do something? Yes. If you think you are not able to pay the fees and you'll be able to work to support it, don't forget, even if you defer the course, you still have to come back and continue.
Mm,
Don't leave life, don't let life leave you on the way, but live life as you go along. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We have Brother George Owusu says, inspirational transition. God bless you all for such a program. Thank you, Brother George Owusu for watching us live from Richmond Media, coming to your doorstep. So call a friend, ask a friend to call another friend. Tell a family member to call another family member. Ask your family member to also call a friend. And let us meet together as one family, as Richmond Media, bringing you from the beginning. And my guest continue to be Mr. Johnson AMPONSAH. He is also an elder. One thing that Elder Johnson said is when he came to the UK, the church supported him. So, whatever faith that you have, wherever you go, don't sit home. Don't be like someone talking to you. Just look for where the church is, wherever the church is, and let your church members know that you are a member from somewhere.
mm,
Let, if you are a Muslim, go to the mosque. Let them know that yes, you are there. And then, if you are a traditional worshiper or whatever, don't forget, some families are here for you. We have churches all over in the UK. Wherever your belief, your trust is, go and worship. And I know God will continue to guide you through wherever stage that you are, and God will lift you at the right time. We are not preaching here, but when the church comes in, we have to let you know what the church stands for and what the church is capable of doing or supporting you at point of need. Thank you, Elder Johnson and Mr. Johnson, and I usually call him Asori Penini. Thank you for coming live on Richmond Media, Richmond Facebook, and radio is Richmond. Everywhere, nothing but Richmond. Thank you. As we continue our conversation this afternoon on From the Beginning, how do you or how are you able to balance your personal life together with your work as a social worker?
Thank you for that question. It's a very important thing to know that social work, those who want to come into it, it's not a 9 to 5 job, even though officially it's a 9 to 5 job. Of course, some people do some nights, those particularly in the mental health area do nights. There is also out of hours social workers, but typically it's an 8 to 9 hour job, but it is not because you social workers are typically case holders, and because of that, it's not like say nursing where when you finish work for the day you're done for the day until the next morning. But with social work, mostly you hold cases and you carry the cases with you. Sometimes when you're sleeping, you're dreaming about it. You wake up in the morning, you dream it. You think about it. You know, so it's very important that you're able to detach yourself from the job, whatever you did during the day. When you come home, it's very important that you detach yourself from it, and it's very difficult to do so because you're thinking about your service users, your clients. You sometimes you think about what am I going to do about this case, because it involves a it involves very important decision making, because you're making decisions about life. Particularly in my field of social work, you're asking yourself, is this child going to live at home, or is this child going to be removed from home? What kind of services do I want to put in to support this family so that these children can feel comfortable, can feel happy, can avoid the abuse, can protect them, give them life chances and better their welfare, their life chances, so that they can become better people in the future. So detaching yourself, and not detaching yourself only physically from the actual physical work, but also being able to detach yourself emotionally, because it is a very, very emotional work as well. Imagine, making decisions about, children and their parents' future. That is a very daunting, decision that you can make. So it carry it with you all the time. When you go on holidays as well, sometimes, you need to take time off, and recharge your battery. And you need to be able to, I remember one time I was going to Ghana, and I carried my laptop with me. And I was working there for 2 days. I was still working. The next time I was going to Ghana, you know what? I left my laptop at home. In the UK, I did not carry with me anymore. So that, because without my laptop, I can't do anything. So it's very important that you, able to detach yourself in that aspect as well. So those of us who've got children, my children are a bit older now, so it's easier for me now. But when the children were growing up, when I get home, they need my attention. Okay, so I need to help them. Both my children have been to grammar school, so you have to prepare them, and I had to sit down with them, go through their practice papers with them, coach them, support them, play with them until they go to bed. Read stories to them and pray with them before they go to bed. All these take time, and I couldn't just continue working, so I had to carefully balance home life with my job. But I can't also forget that because of the nature of the job, the workload that we carry, the heavy workload, sometimes you have to catch up. So carefully, I sometimes work on Sundays just to catch up, a couple of hours on Sundays or some evenings just to catch up, or sometimes wake up quite early in the morning. But let me just conclude on this point to say that depending on if you have children, if you have children, that's one thing. And all, if you have children, also depending on the ages of the children, it's also very important. So at the moment, I've got a bit more flexibility than when my children were waking up. Apart from this time, my wife wants my time all the time. Um, you know, apart from that, it's better now. I can do some catch up at some odd times.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. It's a great joy to have you today, right, at Richmond Media. All our viewers, thank you. Keep watching us, and I'm very sure by the end of the program, you will have something that will be able to shape your life, that will be able to shape your career, that will be able to build up your home for better. It's not every man that is being able to balance personal life together with their profession. They always or mostly leave the home life for the ladies to do everything. But Mr. Johnson is highlighting to us the importance of, balancing home life together with the profession. Don't leave everything to your wife. Don't let the lady only take care of the children. At least if you cannot cook, you can also take them through their academic work. And that will take some load off the shoulders of the lady so that the lady will be able to meet your needs. Elder said the wife now needs him most. And because he's been able to accomplish what he needs to be done at home and work, he can still have time for his wife to
Sometime.
make sometimes, not all the time, but
Yes,
mostly. At least the wife is also working, but
that's right.
both of them have to balance things out to
Mm.
make time for themselves. So continue watching us right at Richmond Media from the beginning, where life began. Where has life taken you? And how far are you? Are you making progress in life? Are you contributing to your clients, to the people that comes along with you, to your church members, to your family members, to your loved ones, to your friends, and to everyone who needs your service? Mr. Johnson, what are some of your biggest accomplishments in your profession?
Right. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. So I will hit only one nail on this point because to me, accomplishment has to, tie very neatly to the purpose of your job. Okay. So not looking at progressing in terms of or on top of the ladder, but mainly looking at how am I discharging my duties on a daily basis? How am I achieving the purpose for which I am working? And as a Christian as well, what's very important to me is to come to a conclusion at the end of the day or at the end of a particular case and ask myself, what have I been able to accomplish for this family? And like I said before, nothing gives me a greater joy than to make a good plan with the family for them to follow through so that the purpose of that plan is achieved. So, for example, if a child that I'm working with has significant behavioral problems and I make plans for that child and the family, my goal is at the end, how is this child's behavior going to improve? Would I be able to put my hand on my chest and say, yes, because of what I have done with this family? And remember, I'm not saying what I've done for this family, what I have done with this family. Am I leaving this family better off or worse off? And on occasions when particularly there has been a court case where, you know, where we heading towards is, in the end, there is the possibility or that likelihood that this child will be removed from their parents. And then for some reasons, I am able to work with the multi-agency and with their lawyers and to present a case to the judge. And then in the end, this child is able to return home. That gives me a lot of joy, because when we present a case to court, which is called care proceedings, we are effectively saying that we are removing this child from home. But also the law requires us to work with the family, even during the proceedings, that what can we do so that this family will be able to make the changes, the required changes, so that this child can return home. Most of the times, once we get into court, likelihood that this child will be removed from home is very high. So what I do, and what gives me a lot of joy is, I'll give an example, that there was this family in London. I realized straight away that the parents will not be able to care for these two children, not three children, two boys, a girl. And I did ask myself, what can I do that these children can remain within the family rather than going into adoption or foster care? And when we say family, it's not just the parents. We had a grandmother who put themselves forward to want to care for these children. Because of the history of the mother, or of the grandmother, of her own son, all my managers were against these children going to this grandmother. But I had to assess this woman, this grandmother, very carefully, a very comprehensive assessment. And I put forward a recommendation to my managers and to the court that this is what I wanted to do. I want these children to go to the grandmother instead of adoption, because the little one was going to be adopted and the two older boys will be going into long-term foster care. And I was so happy that in the end, these children, the court agreed that, and in fact, you know, myself and my management, we have to agree on something before we present to court. We have to agree on what we call care plan. Otherwise, I mean, they have to sign the care plan. So they gave me the benefit of the doubt that if that's what you're saying, then we're going to side with you. But let's see what the grandmother will come up to. So in the end, the court agreed with with our care plan, and these children went to the grandmother as long-term carer under what we call special guardianship. And that is what I call accomplishment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson, for joining us right at Richmond Media. Our viewers, listeners, whoever is watching us today, wherever you are watching us from, don't forget to subscribe to Richmond Media, Facebook, YouTube, and on radio. We continue our conversation on From the Beginning, where life began. Mr. Johnson, as we come to the end of our program, how has the recent COVID-19 impacted on your profession?
Yeah, I did have some statistics. Let me just check. When you asked me that question, I was thinking about that this COVID-19 has, although it was a pandemic, it had become an endemic in our lives, and it's still controlling our lives today. And social work was no exception. It was no exception. And during the COVID, there is an organization called Social Workers Benevolent Trust. Okay. And they did a survey and they realized that about 70% of social workers sought mental health support, professional mental health support. They had about 20% of social workers of those surveyed taking time off because of mental health issues relating to COVID-19. And then 24% had to again seek professional help to improve their mental health. And the question is why? Because during the pandemic, we realized that people were home. People were living at home, staying at home. They were not going out. And the stress of being at home alone, being at home, compounded. People were fed up with each other. Domestic abuse actually was on the rise. Children's behavior difficulties went up. Family crisis went up. So it did affect social workers, and it's still affecting social workers today. And what I'm hearing from the office is that we find it difficult. People are changing careers. Some social workers are changing careers. So yes, it has affected social work in a lot of ways. Personally, it hasn't really had any significant impact on me. Thank God for that. But generally, as the profession, yes, it's impacted. Workload has gone up. People are seeking different careers because of the impact that it had on them. We were not able to visit children and families at the heart of it. We had to do some video visits. How can you do social work on video? So it actually had a lot of impact.
Thank you so much. So, as we come to the close of the day, end of this program, what advice would you give to our viewers, to our listeners, on how to pursue the profession that you are in to become a social worker?
Okay, I've got a few. First of all, if you want to pursue it, it's a good area. It's fine. The pay is not bad. It's all right. So if we want more social workers, so you can come. You will be working. You will enjoy it in the sense that you will be having a lot of contact with different professions. You'll be meeting GPs, different doctors, you meeting psychiatrists, psychologists, schools, children with different varying behaviors and needs, families with varying behaviors and needs. You will meet you work with the police, particularly in my area of social work, you will work with the police very, very closely. So you will learn a lot from different professionals. It will also help you in terms of your own parenting. It's very, very important. It is a ready-made job. When I say a ready-made job, I mean as soon as you finish your course, there's the job ready for you. Not that you won't go, you go for an interview, but there's always a job available. Okay. If you want to be enter the profession, the requirement is that two main streams, either first degree, 3-year degree, or master's degree. You don't have to have master's, first degree or master's degree, and you need a pre-experience. You need to have experience, a care work before they admit you. But always contact the university that you want to go to, because every university has got their specific requirements, but these general requirements. But lastly, I want to mention, Obapa, I want to mention one myth. Okay, I can't end this session without mentioning this myth. There is a
Yeah.
myth. There's a myth that social workers, the only job we do in terms of children is to remove children from their family home. That is a myth. Yes, it includes that, but that's not the main thing. The percentage of children removed is far, far, far lower than the children we support to remain at home. The first ethos, the first thing that needs to be looked at is the principle that the best place for a child to grow up is their own family, within their own family. That's the first and foremost principle in the Children Act 1989, which we work with. That's the main. There are different acts, but the main act or law or legislation that we work with is the Children Act 1989. And one of the most important principles is that the best place for a child to grow up is within their own home. Now, if you come across a social work involvement, say something happens within your home, it's very, very important that you seek advice very, very quickly. Okay. So we've got a lot of social workers in Ghanaian social workers. So in fact, there's a Ghanaian Social Work Association in the UK. So get somebody to help you to get advice. Also, as I believe that most of your audience will come from the African background, particularly Ghana. You are an immigrant in the UK, but do not migrate your parenting style from Ghana to the UK. Okay, do not migrate it. You need to learn, because in Ghana we've got lots of great values. Put together, adopt the values which are good from the Ghanaian culture and add it to the good ones in the UK culture. Put it together, because your children are not growing up in Ghana, they are growing up in the UK. And there are laws in the UK. Unlike Ghana, where even there are laws, there are still challenges in implementing those laws. In the UK, they will implement it to the letter. It is very, very important that you adhere to the laws of the land. As a Christian, I wouldn't be doing any service if I say go against the laws of the land. The Bible encourages and puts upon us to adhere to the laws of the land. So that's what I leave with you. Do not import your Ghanaian, or do not migrate your Ghanaian parenting style. Put the positives from the two together, and you will be the best parent in the UK. And your children will enjoy the communities in the UK, the land of UK, and have the best opportunities that you can think about. Thank you so very much, Richmo and Miss Bimah.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you for coming in our eighth Linda Kobia Says very interesting program. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for sharing with us. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your inputs to change lives right at Richmond Media. Whoever is watching us, we love you so much. We thank you so much for spending your time with us. And we hope that you have something today that will change your life. Even if you didn't hear anything, you heard Mr. Johnson's transitioning from Ghana to the UK and then becoming a social worker, how he is balancing personal life together with his work life, and how his life is going to change every individual, whoever is watching us, whoever wishes to be a social worker. And now we know that when you see a social worker, don't run away from them. They're not just taking your children away from you, but they are helping you to support your own child for better. And also, Mr. Johnson is telling us that wherever you are coming from, wherever your background, from African background, from Ghana, from Nigeria, from Kenya, from Cameroon, wherever, from the UK, from the USA, from Europe, from the continent, wherever, from Asia, wherever your background is coming from, don't forget, take the good values out and then Take the good values out from the UK. It's not every value here that is valuable. So you take the two valuable practices, combine them together, and use that to train up your child. If you don't know anything, today you have heard Mr. Johnson, a social worker, a family man, and a Christian. Thank you so much for being with us, spending your time with us, bringing you from the beginning from Richmond Media, Facebook Richmond Media, and then radio is Richmond Media, and on YouTube Richmond Media. We hope to see you again the same time next week. Have a blessed week. Thank you for spending your time with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.